Pensions have always been an issue of great importance to employers and employees, and the Chancellor of the Exchequer has freed up the pension regime significantly this tax year. We brought together a group of experts with a Scottish widow to talk about the opportunities and pitfalls facing people as they start to manage their pensions in a new climate of freedom and choice. Good morning and welcome to the Institute of Directors. Our discussion this morning is one of central importance to the business community and the economy as a whole. Pensions and retirement planning are high on the agenda of employers and employees, and I'm sure this morning we'll benefit from a range of experiences. It's not clear whether legislation is driving changes or reacting to it, but one thing's for sure, retirement planning has become far more than just picking a pension pot, and it's starting to be on people's radar at a much earlier age.
If we look at pension freedoms, that's obviously been quite a big issue in Scottish Widows and Lloyds Banking Group. Initially there was a dash for cash, people looking to get their money out, but we're beginning to get beyond that, so we don't yet know what the new norm is. But in terms of do we think the freedoms are right, well, you can certainly see from the way that the general public's reacted to it that it looks like the right thing for them.
Let me ask first of all, before the new pensions freedoms, how good was the British pension system?
The challenge with pensions is I'm sure they were very good when they were designed, but perhaps they've no longer as relevant to people's lives or the way they want to manage their money.
And we've seen the rise of auto-enrolment, but auto-enrolment is based around you not having to do anything. So there's essentially a dichotomous situation here, whereas if I don't have to do anything, I get put into a scheme and I'll get some contributions in there. The general public are going to have to make decisions at retirement. The question is whether they're actually equipped to do that or not.
I like to think I'm not unintelligent, but as soon as you start saying define contributions and this, I glaze over. I want to know, I'm putting money into something, how much money I'm going to get at what age.
You were saying about auto-enrolment. I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I think by 2018 there'll be guarantees that employers and employees will have to put in, and I'd say in 30 years' time, hopefully we'll get back to a situation where you'll have something similar to final salary schemes.
Why does that have anything to do with employers?
Employers are important choice architects, so they help to decide what their employees do. The challenge though is for all those self-employed people out there who are making less aggregate contributions to pensions every single year.
I don't think what we're doing enough, and at an early enough stage, is getting individuals to take individual responsibility, rather than this position of consistently defaulting or saying, right, Chancellor, what are we going to do about pensions?
A lot of the mystery doesn't come from the underlying concepts of risk, which people intuitively understand. It's the layers of presentation, I think, which put people off.
It's not something I agree with. So you look at the Swedish model, they brought in auto-enrolment and they had heavy advertising to encourage people not to go in the default fund. So it was all about freedom and choice. And by and large, people that didn't invest in the default strategy ended up worse off. We don't make it difficult for them to choose the funds. We create a default which we think is the best thing that we can do for them, but they're free to select any funds at all. But over 95% of them will go in the default fund because they don't want to take that risk.
There are two really big things that we've come up with. One is how difficult it is to say, are things better or worse, just because there have been so many big changes. So it's almost starting from scratch. You almost want to structure it by saying, right, you're going into defaulting unless you've got a good reason not to.
The only problem I see with that is when people get to retirement. If they haven't engaged in it, they've now got someone to blame. I was in your scheme, putting those contributions in, and you were putting the money there, and now I haven't got enough money in retirement.
Freedom and choice transformed the way IOD members look at pension saving. So the idea of heritability of pensions that's absolutely engaged people.
So I've just looked at this research, read it yesterday, 5,000 people, and by and large, a massive majority of them want a guaranteed income for life in retirement. Okay? But when they come to the point of making a decision, exactly what you were saying, you suffer from big number, small number syndrome. So I walked in needing a guaranteed income for life, and now that I've opened Pandora's box, I've got a whole range of options, and the least attractive one to me is the one that was the one I wanted before I walked in the door.
Can I ask though, I mean the last pensions minister said you're free to take it out and buy a Lamborghini. Have people done that metaphorically? I mean, have they really splashed it on something?
To be fair, the average payout has been more Fiesta than Lamborghini. Where I've seen large funds going out, it's generally gone overseas. They've now got access to take their money out of this tax regime.
Personal opinion, I think it's very important for people to keep the money in the UK. I know you mentioned that a few people have thrown a load of cash abroad into property, and we're not a regulated market, but at least we can promote a product that is UK based, and I think that's important for everyone, whether they're regulated or non-regulated.
You're going to have a feed-down effect. By the time the 25-year-olds are 50, they are not going to be thinking the same way as their parents. I'll give you an example. I have a 29-year-old daughter. In the new job she's got, there was a pension benefits offering, and she had a very lengthy discussion with me about how to handle this, how she should use the facility over a period of time, and what the pension investment would mean. Because she's in a situation now where if she doesn't plan for it, nobody's going to. And that message is hitting through to this generation.
Another problem is the digitisation of information and the variability of quality, the variability of advice.
The worst case would be that we start thinking about this like a gas bill or whatever it is. You've got companies you can switch every 6 months from one to the next.
Tell us where we will be in 3 or 4 years.
We think the average member of the public, they're scared about investment decisions. So they'll go with the default option. And as I said, the default option will be probably flexible drawdown, which is trying to manage your own pension pot. And essentially your pension provider will offer you several managed funds and you'll have to make a decision. You may take advice, but invariably these managed funds are invested in the stock market, or they're invested in government bonds or corporate bonds, and they're all tradable, volatile assets. And we can see just a lot of pensioners getting really burnt.
One of the things we've been grappling with is, okay, we've got a default fund during accumulation, during the build-up phase, but our default position is drawdown. But there are other schools of thought which say, do you know what, when you start drawing on your pension, you should be in risk-free or near risk-free assets.
It's not the only way you can do it. You can actually just take chunks of money out your existing plan and leave the investments where they were before. You can just take money out and it goes into your bank account, and it's whatever your bank account charges you. There are no product costs.
Speaking from an alternative market, 2-3 years ago we found there was an increase in trade. It could be interesting in a few months, 6-12 months time, to see if people, when they have the freedom and full understanding, if they want to look at alternative sectors as well. Art and classic cars, in particular fine wine. Because the wine is stored in bond, it's under the HMRC guidance, and it's there is no VAT or duty, but also capital gains.
When I was growing up as a child, children were expected to look after their parents, in later life, whereas now I think most people that are getting a pension, they just want to be looked after while they're alive and less bothered about the bit at the end. I don't know how that's affected people's decisions, but you see it all the time. You almost want to go out with nothing.
And there's actually been a reverse pressure created by these freedoms that, you've got children that can't get on the housing ladder, you've got a pension fund, it's got a lot of money in it, you don't need it yet. Could you take some money out of it to get your kids on the housing ladder?
Because the other thing you've got to remember is people are working much longer. So pension age is cutting in while people are still in employment.
For employers, there are some other issues as well about this stuff. When you get to 55, you can still be working there and take all your money out. When they come to what you would consider their retirement age, they have no money left. They can't afford to retire, and now you have an ageing workforce.
What countries have got it right? Are there things we can learn from other countries?
Australia. They have had compulsory pension savings since the mid-90s, and essentially that has endowed the Australian nation with a pension fund that most UK citizens can only dream of.
When you get to retirement, I don't think it's a very good system. There's a tax system, there's complicated, there's means-tested benefits, so you're not getting back all the benefits. People are encouraged to take the money out. I think the Dutch just won the award for the best global, the Dutch and the Danes, and they're both about collective responsibility, whereas we've definitely over the next few years, we're going around individual responsibility.
Do you think there's a big switch in towards the popularity of ISAs versus pensions? I mean, do you see that?
I think capping contributions into pension schemes will drive more activity towards ISAs.
The tax situation is what you've got to sort out. But if you have long-term savings and investment products, and you want to be able to switch between the two for any purpose, maybe you should be able to do so.
Where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years? What's the British pensions regime going to look like?
Long term with auto-enrolment, 20 years' time, personally I think it would look very good.
So the concept of the pension as an investment that you manage for yourself, that's going to stay.
What we're certainly finding with the younger generation is they want it in less detail, and they are used to reading things on a smartphone or a tablet, and they want it in bite-sized
standardised advice that appears on the screen. That's right, yeah.
Which, of course, is a problem.
The word pension actually stops having a real meaning. It's all about long-term investment. And if you could make that change, you know, which will be natural, the debate will be completely different in 5 years' time.
Thank you all very much indeed. It's been a very useful conversation and we've covered a lot of territory. Much appreciated.